think about that? Let's just take one example about this whole flu thing. Now, look, the real issue should be the fact that 80% of Americans who are low income, who get sick, can't afford to get sick.
Yeah.
That really ought to be the issue. And the thing that I so appreciate about these athletes, they're damned if they do, damned if they don't. If they don't get involved, we criticize them for being elitist.
Right.
When they do get involved, we're saying, oh, you hear the other side saying, oh, I'm tired of these wealthy, spoiled individuals who, don't appreciate the country. What you really are seeing are individuals who we every day say, thank God they haven't forgotten from whence they came. Thank God that they're reaching behind. What you just heard Professor Edwards say, and I don't know if anybody caught it, but he ought to be on most news shows, because they're not just talking about buying jerseys, protesting, but he says, we're going to take this to the barbershop.
Yeah.
We're going to now people are talking about a solution and not just focusing on the quote-unquote protest. Look, pain brings about protest. Protest is supposed to bring about a plan. Plan is supposed to bring about progress. And that's where we have to take this.
And Joe, what do you make of the backlash against people like Kaepernick?
Oh, I mean, what's new? Look, I made the mistake the other day of saying to a gentleman, I've seen this movie before. He said to me, I lived it. This is not new. This is not new. The panel that you've put together, millennials have to understand. We've seen this. When you talk with the Tommy Smiths and the John Carlos, and they tell you, look, we didn't have $13 at the time we made the protest, and they took that. They're getting ready to try to take $13 million from Kaepernick.
All of them.
David, this protest now has been compared to the protest staged by Rosa Parks. Remember that in 1955, when she refused to give up her seat for a white passenger on a bus. That was a pivotal moment in the civil rights struggle. Are we seeing another pivotal moment now?
It feels that way, and to piggyback on what both Dr. Edwards and Mr. Madison said earlier, these are issues that have been at the forefront of discussion of Black people and people of color in this country, and by extension around the world, constantly. It defines our entire lives for the most part. Certainly in the last 2 years, police brutality has been at the forefront because of everything, that sort of spiraled out of Ferguson and then to Baltimore and then to so many other cities since then. And since we brought up now the presidential elections, how many times, when you think about it, has that been on the forefront of what they've spoken about? But there's been all these other issues that are bounced around, and there were just talking points and sound bites that are being thrown around that have nothing to do with anything being fixed. But now, here we just had a clip of the president talking about it, and now the two presidential candidates, they're going to get to the point where they're going to be forced to comment on this. Trump has already said something very Trumpian about it. But this is something that is going to get into the minds of the people who we are choosing to lead us, for the next 4 years very soon. And it's all because of a groundswell that began from a football player in a sport that supposedly is a game that is supposed to be, no one's supposed to care about that much. It's not supposed to be that serious. But here we are. They brought something to the forefront that should have been there all along.
Harry Edwards, go ahead.
And from the outset, this was something that Kaepernick and I discussed. And again, I don't want to act like there's an equivalency here in terms of the people who are being targeted. Trump couldn't lead me out of a burning porta potty with the door off the hinges. So I'm not looking to target any change as far as he's concerned. But we do expect for candidates all the way down the ballot to be discussing these issues when we have videotape of children being shot, videotape of men being shot in the back, videotape of men lying on their backs being shot, of women being pushed to the ground and so forth by police officers. And this is not anti-police. We realize that just as blacks have conversations with their children about what to do when they encounter police officers' children are having a conversation with them every time they leave the house. Take care of yourself, be safe, we want you to come home tonight. This is not anti-police. We want the killing to stop. And that is the target of everything that these football players are doing. And it's not just Kaepernick, it's the Seattle Seahawks who I've worked with. I've been talking to the Miami Heat. I've been talking to the Miami Dolphins. We need to keep this in the forefront so it doesn't get lost in all of this swinishness that's going on for political conversation during a presidential campaign.
And it cannot become, and it's quickly becoming that, the new normalcy. See, this is what what bothers me, that this becomes what is supposedly normal.
Yes.
It is not normal. It is, and you know, it's not normal. Let me add one other thing. Here you have a young man that walks into a church, kills 9 people. He complies, he's alive. When black people comply, they're dead. A 57-year-old man was shot in Florida because eating chicken wings and French fries in his backyard with a rusty Swiss knife, because he had a domestic dispute with his niece, so they shot him while eating chicken wings and French fries. A young man walks into a church, shoots and kills 9 people. He says he's hungry. They take him to Burger King. This cannot be the new normalcy, and this is what this protest is doing, and that's why I said, look, if Coretta Scott King once told me if she had a nickel for every black person that said they were at the March on Washington, she'd have been a millionaire. The reality, it's always the minority, but you're going to see this grow. And I will say this in conclusion to my remarks here, isn't it ironic that these same quote-unquote patriots years ago would praise a young student in China who goes on top of a tank,
Right.
and yet criticize a young man who kneels at a football game?
David, this is a sports field, or sports fields being used as a platform. It certainly attracts attention, but is it very different from, say, demonstrations or protests that are being carried out by groups like Black Lives Matter?
The NFL is, you literally can't even explain to anybody, even people who are within sports, how big the NFL is. I mean, there could not have been a bigger venue for all this to take place. Even if this had taken place, say, in a baseball game or say in the NBA where the overwhelming majority of players are black. Because it's the NFL, it's sort of like what Dr. Edwards and Tommy Smith and John Carlos did back in 1968. The Olympics were that big on that big a stage. The NFL is just, it's a monster. It is, you know, it just literally really Bigfoots every other sport. It crosses over well beyond sports. You know, the teams, the names, even the pageantry surrounding all this is just transcends just the X's and O's and, you know, throwing passes and all that kind of stuff. So people are paying attention to this in ways that they would not do so, that they can easily tune out if they see, you know, something that happened in, like you said, Ferguson or Cleveland
Right.
or Miami or Milwaukee or Baltimore or something like that. You know, you can compartmentalize it so easily. That's not my neighborhood. That's not where I live. That's not near me. But the NFL is everywhere. And that's one of the big reasons why everybody is paying attention to this. And of course, people can connect it with all these places, because certainly there's been a ton of incidents in the Bay Area over the years. You know, every city has this long history of police violence, and it's bringing back those memories and it's bringing back the attention to those kind of things. So it's, you know, there could not be a better place to have chosen to do this, and not a better group of athletes to choose to do this than NFL players right now in this moment in time. If you had to pick a group of basically celebrities, NFL players are as big as it gets.
You mentioned Rosa Parks, and I do want to make sure the audience around the world understands something. Do not, and I knew Rosa Parks, look, do not spread this myth that she sat down because her feet hurt. That was a lie.
Right.
That's a myth. She sat down, and it's ironic because she remembered and thought about Emmett Till. That's why she didn't get up. She said enough is enough. It had almost been a year after Emmett Till, the indignity of what happened to him, and it continued with Rosa Parks. And isn't it ironic that this young man sits down because he thought about those who had been killed by law enforcement in this country? There's an interesting parallel there.
Yeah. There's a lot of butting heads against mythology and stories that these players and these protesters are fighting against. I mean, there's so much that's been pushed up against Colin Kaepernick about what are his reasons why he's doing this. Is he really oppressed? You know, he's too rich to do this, or, oh, he's about to lose his job, so he's trying to do X, Y, and Z. And they really didn't believe that this many players would support him. I think everyone thought that he was going to almost be abandoned by his fellow players.
You know, it's interesting. I had a conversation with Kaepernick, and one of the things that he said was that he realized that the only reason that it was Mike Brown and Trayvon Martin and Oscar Grant rather than him is that he was not there.
Right.
And he also realizes the magnitude of the forum that he has. I did a talk in front of about 200 junior high school and first-year high school students, most of them aspiring athletes, at a venue about 6-7 months ago. And one of the things I asked them is, if you had a choice, you could be President Obama, you could be Steph Curry, you could be LeBron James, you could be Cam Newton. How many of you want to be President Obama? 3 hands went up.
Wow.
They want to be Steph Curry. Right. They want to be LeBron James. They want to be Cam Newton. So that tells you about the size of the forum, the megaphone that these athletes have. And in driving through Oakland, junior high school was getting out, and I looked in Oakland, which is really Raiders territory. I must have counted 12 or 13 number 7 jerseys, Kaepernick jerseys. So there's a tremendous amount that can be accomplished here, especially when the athletes are talking about going beyond protest to actually developing conversations by funding free haircuts and free makeovers at salons where female police officers and women from the community can go in and sit and talk while they're getting that done, where officers can go in and get haircuts with men from the community and literally have that conversation that everybody's been talking for years about us needing to have in American society.
All right, Harry Edwards, I'm going to, you know, as you point out, these are very powerful voices. I want you to take a listen to what John Carlos had to say about these protests.
We need to come together and start to try and resolve these issues. He's bringing attention to them. And how did he bring attention to them? The same way we did 48 years ago in terms of giving America shock treatment. That's the only way they move, man, is when you shock them. And, you know, for him to do what he did, it took a tremendous amount of courage for him to sit down against all odds and say, someone needs to make a statement again.
So, Professor Edwards, do we need that shock treatment again right now?
We need it because there's so much noise out here and there's so much that's slipping through the cracks. We cannot afford, in a society that is increasingly brown and black and all kinds of colors in between and beyond, to allow these issues of human rights for significant populations of people to simply become back burner, much less slip through the cracks. Somebody has to stand up and say, and oh yes, I understand the international issues. I understand what's going on in the Middle East. I understand the problems with the global economy. I understand the shifting from manufacturing to service industries and computers and so forth. But there are also these issues. And so I think that it's necessary. I think that there could have been a better generation of athletes to do it.
And we've got to end it there. Thanks to all of you for joining us.